How long has it been since the PS2 and the PSP came out? I'll give you a second just to think about it for a bit. We're in May of 2020 as of this video right now. The PS2 came out in March of 2000, and the PSP came out around December of 2004. Makes you feel a little old, doesn't it? Has it really been that long? Wow. It makes me nostalgic just thinking about it. Now, today I want to reminisce with you guys a bit about the good old days of the PSP, PlayStation Portable. Now, I personally got my hands on my first PSP way back in 2009, and it was a PSP Fat, the first model that was on the market, or PSP 1000. And later on, my brother got himself a PSP Slim, or PSP 2000, the second model that came after that. And of course, there was a PSP 3000 as well in the Go, but if I remember correctly, the PSP 3000 didn't have, or Super Slim was it called? I'm not sure. I don't think it had any Wi-Fi capabilities, or ad hoc, so to speak. Now, I used to see the console with my little cousins at family gatherings and stuff, but at the time I didn't really feel like I was missing out on much. I used to see some games that I really wanted to get my hands on though, such as GTA Liberty City Stories and Vice City Stories. Luckily for me though, they eventually made their way onto the PS2. But what really pushed me onto getting my own PSP was the announcement of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker that came out for the PSP back in 2010. Now, back then I had become new friends with one of my neighbors, and it turns out that we had a lot of the same interests. And guess what? He owned a PSP. So sometimes he would lend me his PSP from time to time, and I would download games for him, as well as some music and videos as well. I was so excited that I had finally found someone to play some Peace Walker co-op with me when the game would come out. Now, here's a little funny story. I remember when the first Peace Walker demo dropped, I downloaded it. However, the game required that I download an update for official firmware. And at the time I didn't realize it, but my PSP was running on custom firmware. So I downloaded it for both my friend and me, and we enjoyed the demo for what it offered, and then it hit us. We couldn't play the rest of our games since we updated to official firmware. So we eventually reverted back after a bit of a goose chase. It was a bit of a headache, but those were good times. Finally, the game came out, but the Japanese release came first. So obviously we played it in Japanese first, and then in English when that came out a few months later. We'd also sometimes challenge each other to death matches, and like deathmatch matches in Peace Walker and Portable Ops, and as well as going head to head against each other in Tekken. Of course, play some co-op on Peace Walker and Monster Hunter as well. There was this neat little trick that I used to do back on the PS3. It wasn't much of a trick, but it was something called Ad Hoc Party. And at the time, the HD collection for Metal Gear Solid hadn't released yet, so I was like the Peace Walker version of the PS3 wasn't out yet. So what I had Ad Hoc Party on the PS3, where you would basically like hook up your PSP through Ad Hoc to your PS3, and then through that you could play online with other players on the PSP. And I made some good friends on there. I met some great people, and it was a great time. A little on the laggy side, but it was an elaborate way to play co-op, Peace Walker co-op online, and it was a great time. Nice memories. For sure, we want to take advantage of the PSP being portable and all. So what we would do sometimes was try to find a nice little quiet spot to chill and play some games. Because we didn't really want to sit all day in each other's houses. We wanted to be a little adventurous. There was this little abandoned clinic that was put on hold for construction, and to this day it hasn't been finished. It's still sitting there in my neighborhood like unfinished. Like they've never completed building that clinic. So we would head down to the supermarket, buy some snacks, then we would jump the wall onto that abandoned clinic and just chill out there and play some games. And the guy that was in charge of keeping people out never minded us being there and would always say hi. Poor guy. We would share, our snacks with him because he was just so pleasant, and he would just leave us alone, just let us chill at the spot. I remember downloading PS1 games on the PSP and finished lots of classic games that I never played, as well as reliving some classics from back in the day. It was such a great little companion to have with me on so many trips that I have gone on. But after a while, I stopped playing on my PSP and would rarely play it every now and then. Until one day, me and one of my best buddies were out, and at the time I was barely getting into the Kingdom Hearts series when the first HD collection came out back in around September of 2013. Then we started talking about Final Fantasy, Final Fantasy 7 to be exact. So then he mentioned a little old game called Crisis Core, and I thought to myself, why not? And so I dove into Crisis Core, and I was not disappointed. I totally loved that game. And if I'm being totally honest, the death of Zack, the character, by the way, this is spoilers. Sorry, I already said it, but spoilers for Crisis Core if you haven't played that game. The death of Zack was the last time I ever cried over the death of a video game character. That's how much I got into it. But yeah, those are some little bits of sweet memories that I have with this console. Going back to Peace Walker for a bit, I remember when I first got my hands on Peace Walker, I completely isolated myself for a long time and just sunk my teeth deep into it. At one point, my friends were like, dude, where the hell did you go? Because we used to play Modern Warfare together those days, like all the time together. So I would simply say Peace Walker. Looking back, I remember at one point a friend of mine was on a holiday to Malaysia, and while he was there, he bought our group a copy of the first Red Dead Redemption each, and he got me a physical copy of Metal Gear Solid Peace Walker. And it's the only PSP game that I own a physical copy of, like the only UMD physical copy of any PSP game ever. I used to download some of the homebrew stuff, but I never really got too much into it, sadly. But yeah, those were good days from a time long gone. But yeah, just thought I'd reminisce with you guys a bit and just give you a little story time. So thanks again for sticking around for yet another video, and we can't wait to share more stories and memories with all of you. If you liked the video, please drop a like, comment, and subscribe to the channel if you're new. So take care for now. Peace.